Hello and welcome to our discussion about issues of importance to the Caucasus. I'm Dr. Joanne Lasosky, author and journalism educator, and with me today is Sevinch Osmanqizi, journalist and YouTuber. So, hello Sevinch.
Hello Joanne, thanks for doing the program on very important issues.
Thank you. Let's start with a startling statistic. There are 100 political prisoners in Azerbaijan today. That's a startling number. So I think we need to talk a lot here about the repression of speech in Azerbaijan, and it has gotten so egregious that the human rights organization PACE, or Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, has appointed someone to investigate these repressive actions. So Sevinch, what is the very latest conviction that you know about? I know on June 23rd, third conviction for Ali Aliyev, the leader of the opposition party in Azerbaijan. Now, he's been in prison since January. He's been convicted twice before on consecutive convictions. What does this third conviction mean for Aliyev?
Joanne, you're absolutely right. We have exactly 100 political prisoners in Azerbaijan, according to the Institute of Peace and Democracy. And the list consists of 6 groups and includes 100 people. First group is journalists and bloggers, 4 persons there. Second group is the members of opposition parties and movements, and we got 9 political prisoners in this group. Third group consists of peaceful believers. We call them Muslim believers, 19 persons. Fourth group is convicted in Tartar case, 27 persons. Group 5 is convicted in Ganja case. There are 27 persons in this group. And also group number 6, it's lifetime sentenced. There are 14 persons. This number changes very rarely. So the Ali Aliyev that you mentioned, obviously, first of all, about the PACE, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, already has its repertoire, its representative for political prisoners in Azerbaijan. Now they are discussing appointing a second representative only for speech repressions. So these days we're going to hear if PACE will have a special repertoire on these issues for people who were convicted only for their freedom of speech, for the interviews, for the word, in other words. Absolutely right. Ali Aliyev, the leader of Citizen and Development Party, is one of them. He has been in jail since January 13. And today he has been convicted for the 3rd time. So this is 3rd criminal conviction in 6 months. And all 3 of them are for his YouTube interviews. 2 of them for YouTube interviews with Osmanqizi TV, and 1 of them is another YouTube channel, Boomerang Media. So today's conviction, today's trial was no different from the previous convictions. If you remember his previous convictions, his trials were described by eyewitnesses as an express trial. So fast or hastily the trial was conducted. In today's trial, Ali Aliyev said that he decided not to be represented by defenders, by his lawyers, because they're unable to defend him. Imagine, only 2 days ago, he had yet another trial at the Supreme Court, which is the highest instance in the court system, and nobody was informed about it. So neither his party members nor his defenders, his lawyers, only one lawyer was called by the phone, come to the court. We started hearing now, He was there, and hastily the court decided that the ruling will not be changed. So as you can imagine, we're talking about a person who ran for presidency twice. He is a popular political figure, and a lot of people are interested in following what happens in his trials. So the court kept it in secrecy that he's having a trial at the Supreme Court. So today, for instance, I was trying to cover his trial. The internet in the area in front of the court was completely cut off. We struggled to get anything from the court because a lot of people showed up in front of the court to show their solidarity, show their support for Ali Aliyev. So what we've seen here is a pure case of how the prisoners of conscience are treated in Azerbaijan. They are not able to defend themselves. Their lawyers are not able to defend them. And Ali Aliyev himself told the trial today that he addressed the judge, and he said that why to do a show in here? I know that you already have the ruling ready. Why don't you go back to that room, bring that ruling, and read it to us? Because that's exactly that was exactly the case. It was a politically motivated sham trial, and looks like the ruling was there before the trial even started, and its aim is just to keep him in prison as much as possible.
So that's something that I do have a question about. How can a person in prison be convicted of another crime? How can the case be made against someone who is in prison, something that deals with speech issues? These consecutive convictions suggest that the prisoner could be in prison for an unknown length of time. How can this be done? What is it done? Why are they doing it this way? Is it to avoid international attention or local reaction?
Joanne, exactly. When his first trial took place, he was sentenced to 5 months in prison. And while the first term was was coming close to end, his second criminal case was launched, adding another 6 months. And today, now that he's about to be set free on July 13, we have a third criminal case, another 1 year added, but because he already served by that time 6 months in prison, that means he will be staying in prison for another 6 months. Altogether, it means 1 year in prison. But instead of saying what the final prison term is about, it looks like they're trying to do it bit by bit. And I believe there are several reasons for that. One of them is how the public is going to react. Because if a political leader is convicted for 1 year for his interview, this will raise a lot of questions. It will cause international attention. But when you do that, 5 months here, 6 months there, another 6 months here, it's kind of, you send mixed signals. And the other thing is, it's also to put a pressure on the person as well. Bear in mind, this is Ali Aliyev's first imprisonment. He has never been to jail before. And this is also psychologically to influence him. Interestingly enough, both Article 147 and 148 is something that should have been removed from criminal code years ago. A person should not be sent to prison for what he or she says, or in his speech, or in his interview, etc. But these are still there in criminal code, and Azerbaijani government promised years ago that they will be working on that to remove it from the criminal code, and that they have established moratorium over these articles. That has not been the case, and we see one after another criminal convictions based on these articles, defamation and libel.
You are very closely associated with this case because, as you said earlier, one of his convictions is related to interviews he's done with you. And then just a few days ago, you received a letter from him from prison. Can you tell us more about this letter you received? What was its main message?
Yes, indeed. It was his very first letter from prison, and very powerful letter. In fact, Joanne, I think the reason the letter was addressed to me has several reasons. One of them is, yes, indeed, two convictions are related to the interview that were run in Osmanqizi YouTube channel. But another one is that this is the name of the channel, because in the past we've seen how opposition party leaders were repressed, were pressured not to appear on Osmanqizi channel. And I think by sending the letter to me, Ali Aliyev was also given a signal to the government that the government will not be able to stop him, that he will continue to do his interviews with this channel. Now, about his letter, he clearly tells us that he has been kept there as a government's hostage. He says that I am President Ilham Aliyev's prisoner. He says that while in prison, he has been threatened to be injected fatal injection if he does not start cooperate with the government. In this letter, he says that the government member, the member of the president's office, have issued ultimatum to him while he was still free, before he was in prison, that there will be new convictions if he does not change his narrative. He also says that while in prison, his family members, and namely his wife, was approached by person close to the government, who pressured his wife that he should write a letter to President Ilham Aliyev asking to pardon him. And Ali Aliyev also concludes in that letter that he has no intention to ask for pardoning because he's not guilty. And also he says that the government is trying to break him, basically to bring him to cooperate with him and stop being opposition leader, to change his narrative, to stop his criticism of President Aliyev and his corrupt government officials. But also bear in mind that that's what Ali Aliyev was popular for. Every interview with him was in fact was to educate people. You know, he's a educator just like yourself. He's been teaching at a medical university for years, and he would use these interviews to conduct his researches, to tell us every time about one of the aspects of wrongdoings of the government, of corruption. He was famous for his speeches on corruption among the Azerbaijani government officials, and in particular President Ilham Aliyev. So it is, I think, the whole idea behind these three criminal convictions is, first of all, to make sure that he does not represent threat to the government. It is a fear. It is feared that the government may keep him in prison until the elections of 2025. In fact, these elections can also be early presidential elections. They can be moved to 2024, which means 2 years from now. But because it will be harder for the government to imprison him very close to the elections. So this may be part of that efforts to put him in prison now, so that he does have criminal convictions, so that he cannot run for presidency, because he did run for presidency already twice. He is one of the most outspoken political leaders in Azerbaijan. His popularity has been growing, especially among young people who want to see fresh face, fresh people, fresh ideas about the future of the country. He did not boycott the elections. He's been taking very active part in this election. So I think that this is part of a long-term planned project by the government to silence him now before it is too late.
That letter from prison to you is a very significant addition to what we know about what's happening with him and his family. Now, is this pressure on him and his family unique? Or are there other of those 100 political prisoners, are there others that are subject to this same kind of unheard of pressure?
Sadly, it's not unique. Recently, I interviewed another political prisoner, former political prisoner, Afgan Sadigov. He's a former journalist and blogger. He just got out of prison last month, and he's been telling in the interview that when he was in prison, he underwent through the same pressure upon his family. In fact, he was saying in record that the prison administrators were telling him that they can just kill him, can just shoot him in the head, and nobody will be able to stop them. They were telling him, look, at the people out there are saying, free Afgan Sadigov. When we kill you now, they will be saying, rest in peace, Afgan Sadigov. That will be the only difference, but nobody can stop us from doing that. So this is, I'm grateful to Afgan Sadigov that he actually came out and made this public, because as you can imagine, this is not something that government and lawmakers want the public to know, but it threads the light on what is going on behind the jails, behind the bars. And I believe this is typical for the government, the way to treat the political prisoners. And what Ali Aliyev wrote in that letter is that it's not only the pressure on him, they threaten him to kill him, to inject him with fatal injection, that they deliberately are placing him with killers, drug abusers, deliberately, because his guilt is so to speak is his interviews, libel and defamation, but he's been kept in prison together with killer, someone who actually killed a person. This is how the government treats him. But also his close family members are also going through pressure. They're pressuring him that he should write a letter to President Aliyev, that he should apologize, otherwise there will be more trouble on the way.
Well, we are going to keep this case on close watch of this case, I'm sure, for at least the next 6 months and probably longer. So thanks for the information on that. Now, there's another issue that has raised some concerns in Azerbaijan, and it's the problem of people being sexually assaulted, people who are being held by the police. Now, I'm not saying that it's the police that's doing it, but these people, it's a very complex issue. People under police custody are being blindfolded, and then they don't know where they are, and they're being sexually assaulted. Now, you know very, very much about a civil rights activist who said he was assaulted, Elgis Manmadov. He called your program and shared his story with your audience about what happened to him. Now, I know there's a lot of details attached to this. Can you get us into what he told you on your program? Give us some more details about this issue.
Yes, it is indeed a really big story. I received this phone call from Elgis Mammadov a couple of days ago. He was just released from the prison. He served 1 month administrative prison term. He was supporting one of his fellows whose trial has been held at the court, Razi Humbatov. So May 20, he was in front of the court when he was detained by police. He was treated okay by the police, but then somehow when he was in front of the court, still in the hands of the police, as you said, he was kidnapped. He was taken in unknown direction, and he was assaulted. You can imagine how much bravery it takes for a person to come out and actually make it public. I'm immensely grateful for Elgiz Mammadov for saying that, especially given that it's not the first time that activists and protesters are subjected to this kind of assault. We heard from others that other civil society activists that they were also made naked, that their videos were taken where they were supposed to say sorry, that they're sorry for what they did, that they will not protest again, that they will not be coming to the courts again, that they will not be supporting these people again. And some of them were indeed assaulted. Those who did not want to obey, they were assaulted, sexually assaulted. We're talking about men. And some of them were threatened to be assaulted. Now, this is very interesting, I mean, because as Elgiz Mammadov himself was asking, when I asked him, who does he think these people were they police, were they someone else, he actually told me, like, who else, how is it possible that these people took him from the hands of the police, assaulted him, made him naked, made him make this I'm sorry videos, and then return it to the police. Indeed, it raises a lot of questions, and looks like those who are doing it either are police people themselves or are members of a different law enforcement body like National Security Service, or there is a department in the police called banditism, the Department Against Banditism, and etc. But definitely these are people that do have some kind of relationship with the police, that these actions are approved by the police, because all the police says is that this never happened. They do not investigate it. They are not interested in investigating him, and all they say is that this never happened. Now, how can you say it never happened? The eyewitness, the person who has been subjected to the assault himself, like Elgiz Mammadov, is saying that he has been assaulted. So the very way the police is handling this situation looks like they're very well aware of that. Looks like this force is out there. It's not the first case when they have assaulted male protesters, took their naked videos, and they promises that they will not be protesting again. And looks like police itself and maybe the higher ranks of the government are interested in not investigating these kind of crimes.
This is a very disturbing situation when the police are somehow connected with this group that's assaulting men protesters in this way. Now, I want to talk a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
Actually, I just want to add that I mentioned in the beginning that there are 27 people in Tatar case that are considered political prisoners. This is very similar to that. The only difference is that in Tatar case, those who were assaulted and some of them killed, they were members of the army. They were officers, soldiers, etc. But in here, we're talking about civil activists, who are rights activists, journalists, in this case just peaceful protester who is just came to the court to protect, to defend, to show his solidarity with his friend, so who look like have been subject to the police or by the force close to the police, is larger than we think. So that's why Elgiz Mammadov's case is outstanding. We have his name, we know when this happened, so it is police's obligation to investigate it. So if they're going to continue to deny that it happened without investigating, then we know that they're interested in keeping it secret, in not investigating. So they are personally engaged in that.
Right. Keeping it secret demonstrates that they are somehow involved.
We are just repeating, what Elgiz Mammadov said, is that we want investigation. In fact, 2 months ago, in May, in fact, last month, there was a rally in downtown Baku by civil rights activists, and their major slogan was, "We do not want to live in criminal state." And there we had LGBT members, we had rights activists, lawyers and journalists. They were protesting against the police violence. So there were similar violence cases out there. So we're talking about more than one case when police was personally involved, directly or indirectly was involved in this violence against its own citizens.
This is another case that we're going to keep a close eye on and ask more about in the future. So research shows that the new defamation law is the most widely used law for criminal offenses in Azerbaijan today. The Council of Europe says the defamation law any defamation law can't be part of the criminal code. So how does this law conflict with Azerbaijan's international obligations? Does this law make it ostensibly impossible for reporters or YouTubers like you to do their work?
It makes it impossible to do our work. If you're obviously based in Azerbaijan, that's why I'm not based in Azerbaijan. I wouldn't be able to do this job in Azerbaijan. But for those YouTubers, bloggers, and journalists who are based in Azerbaijan, it literally makes it impossible to do your job, because anything you say can be used as libel against you. And also the draconian regulations demand that you ask for permission before you talk, before you show, before you run the audio. So, for instance, the media law that has been adopted earlier this year regulates that if a journalist should be able for permission to record, say, corruption case. So imagine somebody is given someone bribe, journalist is supposed to ask, "May I film it?" So only if the two people say that, "Yes, you're okay, you can film it, I'm able to film it." So this is obviously ridiculous. And also this, the defamation and libel cases, Azerbaijan became member of the Council of Europe 20 years ago, which means that Azerbaijani government has undertaken obligations before these organizations. And one of them is also that you cannot be sent to prison because of what you say. So this should not be part of the criminal code. It should have been removed long time ago. And indeed, the government has promised that they're working on it, that there's a state program. One part of them is about that the lawyers are working on changing these regulations. But this has not been the case. And as you absolutely rightly mentioned, especially since the beginning of this year, we've seen the rise in libel cases. They're used against for instance, Ali Aliyev, who is a political party leader, for his interviews to send him to jail. It's been used against İlham Aslanoglu, who is a lawyer but outspoken, who's been doing YouTube interviews talking about Tartar case when the law enforcement bodies have been assaulting the army members and killing them. It's recently, only a couple of days ago, has been used against Abid Gafarov, who is also a presenter of Kim TV, a YouTube channel in Azerbaijan, who has been outspoken in government wrongdoings. He's been widely covering Tartar case. So this is the case. Basically, government is trying to is using this libel defamation to silence those that it envisages as a threat to its government. And going back to the upcoming presidential elections, indeed, Azerbaijani government has a reputation of changing, of playing with the dates of elections. So looks like they are preparing for these elections now. Anyone, whether it is a presenter or politician or outspoken lawyer, they're trying to punish them now using this defamation case. And one thing that is general, that is similar in all these cases, is that these people are deprived of their freedom to defend themselves, to be legally represented, to have a fair and just legal process. The rulings are adopted hastily. Looks like there have been rulings are prepared before the trial started, which shows that these are politically motivated trials and these people are not able to defend themselves.
We all need to take the words of Martin Luther King: injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
That's beautiful words, and indeed human rights is no longer internal problem of any government. So it's not what the authoritarian or dictators believe nowadays. It should not be.
Thank you for your time, Savinj. I really appreciate it. We've all learned a great deal, and we'll be back to find out more about some of these things that you told us about.